Hi guys, Mel here from The Wild Florette, and this is your second episode of Flower Friday, Tips and Tricks from a Florista. Today we're going to talk about something that people occasionally ask me, whether it's for weddings or for their own personal arrangements. How many blooms do I need? How many blooms do I need when I'm making a centerpiece or a bouquet or anything of that nature? So I'm going to go over some of my tips on this, and then as always there is a blog post that's going to go into a little bit more detail in case you're hungry for more outside of the video. So the first thing to remember about the rule of how many blooms do I need when it comes to making a centerpiece for say is there actually isn't a rule. There's no right answer to this question. However, there are some things you can do to ensure that your arrangements look full, lush, and not skimped together like you did them at DIY yourself. So the first thing to keep in mind is your vessel size. So I'm going to work with a vessel this size today. You can see the circumference there of what we're working with. I actually added a few little stones in the bottom, some turquoise stones, just to give it a little bit more fun. It's very inexpensive. You can buy these stones by like a jar this big and they're like $6. So I put a little bit of stones in the bottom for our arrangement here. And when I know the size of my vessel, I can then kind of guesstimate how many blooms I need. Another thing to remember is greens are always your friend. In order to save costs on arrangements and bouquets, using greenery such as these little berries or eucalyptus, any kind of eucalyptus really, little filler greens like this, these things are all going to be lower cost, and you can really fill in your arrangement with these items, and it's going to save you money. And it's going to make your arrangement look really full and great. The other thing to keep in mind is using larger blooms. Today I picked a antique green hydrangea, and this is going to take up a lot of space in my arrangement. So you'll be able to see that I won't need many of these to make it look full and lush. This per stem I got, I believe, for $5.90, and you can always find them a little bit less expensive or maybe a little bit more expensive depending where they're from. And then we also have, in this case, I have 4 main flower blooms. So I chose a peony, which is always really popular. Peonies can be a little bit expensive. This is about $5.60, $5.90 a stem. But when they open up, they're really full and they take up a lot of space in the arrangement. I also chose 2 daisies here, Gerber daisies. These are very inexpensive by the stem, maybe like $1, $1.50. And again, they take up a lot of circumference when they're in the arrangement, so it's a good buy. And then I chose a protea. So this is a protea. So this is a very unique looking flower. So it can draw a lot of attention to it, and you don't need a lot of them to make a statement. So from here, I'm gonna kind of go through the basics of how to turn these, I don't know, 8 or so items into a beautiful centerpiece that nobody will know you skimped on the price and the budget. Okay, so let's start with our greens as always. As we know from turning into floristas with me each week, you do want to start with your greens. This creates a base for the flowers to sit on. And like always, we are going to measure where we want our greens to sit. And then we'll just trim off the part that hangs below the jar or the vase. So we can start there, have another piece here. And again, you want to kind of build it around the vessel so that all the flowers have something nice to sit on and it's really full and lush. Now sometimes with something like this, I'll hold on to this maybe and use this more as a filler flower because it is so full, and it can take up a lot of space if I have any holes that I didn't anticipate. And so we'll just get this one measured up. Okay, so our greens are ready to go. So from here, I'm actually going to start with the hydrangea because it is so full and lush. We can really get it in a space where it's going to take up a lot of room, and then we can work around it. So again, I'm going to kind of hold it up where I want it to sit and go ahead and trim. And it's always better to under trim. As you know, it's harder to take away than it is to add. So I'm just going to snip a little bit more off of that one and put it in here. And so you see how it's kind of off to the side. So we're going to utilize this side of the arrangement to kind of put some more of our flowers and our blooms in. So as always, I know I encourage everybody to pair your flowers together when you're doing your arrangement, so that can give it like a nice little look when they're with their buddies. And sometimes Gerber daisies are a little tough. They kind of have to sit back in a certain way, so you might have to end up trimming more than you anticipated, and that's okay. Like we talk about, less is more when it comes to trimming and flowers. Okay, so now we want to kind of decide, where do we want to see our protea? So I think this is a really nice talking piece of the arrangement, so I'm just going to clip a little bit and allow it to sit out a little bit more than maybe normal, and then we're going to go ahead and build that green in. Like I mentioned, this is going to kind of hold some of our flowers in place here. Yeah, that's what we wanted. Okay. So we have something like this. I'm going to trim this down a little bit more. And you can see it's really coming together already. And again, sometimes you need to move things around to make sure they're in the right spot after you get going. Another thing with hydrangeas that are pretty cool is you can kind of build stuff out of them, if you can see how that's coming out of the hydrangea. So it gives it a lot of depth. And don't forget, like always, we talk about the front and the back of the arrangement. You don't want the back to be neglected, because when it comes to a centerpiece, people are going to be looking at it from all angles. And you can kind of see as I'm going, I'm trimming a little bit more. And this is really nice. It's taking the full space in the back, the hydrangea. So again, you don't need to spend as much money on individual flowers, because your hydrangea is taking up a lot of space. And so we're going to do our last little bit. Some of these fun little tendrils, these are good just for, adding some depth and dimension to the arrangement. This gives a little bit more pizzazz in an area if you want something to be a little more showy. But there you go. And you have just a simple, basic 8-bloom arrangement with greenery mixed in, and you're really good to go. Something like this probably wouldn't cost you more than $20 to purchase everything that you would need for it. So it's a great way to inexpensively make something for your wedding or for a party at your house or anything like that. So I really appreciate you joining me, and again, check out the blog for some more tips and tricks, and as always, don't forget to check out the workshop tab. You can actually learn with me in person with some hands-on floristaing, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.